Eat it up, my selector.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you're gonna dig this.
The Maestro.
Fist hits the bag, 1, 2, and comes back. Single fist here. You hear that beat?
Think outside the box, and BOXing on top of them, clocking them, send them back to the corner for oxygen. Golden gloves, I know myself, I know the game, it's not a game, I know the ring, I want the belt. Finding the rhythm to hit them, split them, and touch them, and tip them, hit that six-pack with that quick jab. Uppercut the bro, making them fall down, breaking them all down, switch stands, tippy toe, in the hands, give them some more. You and I, Muhammad Ali, anomaly, a Mayweather, Pacquiao, prodigy, in the midst of fist, this, S too hot to rock, think out the box, you know I got the rock, speed back.
That would be a little round.
Oh, big shot.
Left hand comes in from.
But he ate it, Tess.
He did. He stood right up to it and he's firing back.
Because he had to, Tess. A minute. That's all it takes, Tess.
Oh, right hand follows it up. And now forward. Oh, balance. Big finish for Ray Ford. That was not a knockdown, says Charlie Fitz.
And there we have it. Happy Wednesday, everyone. That was obviously Joe Tessitore and Tim Bradley on the call this past weekend. And it was obviously a new WBA featherweight champion of the world in Raymond, and he calls himself Savage Ford. He took out Kolmatov in what I think so far is obviously candidate for fight of the year. Top Rank is off to a tremendous start this 2024. They've been giving us fight after fight. Dare I say they've been giving us fight after fight for what I consider to be the most reasonable deal going on in boxing, at least boxing that you have to pay for. I'm talking about, of course, the ESPN Plus app. And people are going to say, oh, but Maestro, you're turning into a Top Rank fanboy. They're doing tremendous work. I would not be honest if I told you anything otherwise. And I'm going to put it to you like this before we get into the fights that happened last Saturday on ESPN Plus. You do know that Raymond Ford is a Matchroom fighter, and obviously he was fighting in the main event of an ESPN Plus Top Rank card against Kolmatov. And the reason that happened is because Top Rank ESPN outbid Matchroom DAZN to put this card on the Plus app. And think about this. The monthly and yearly subscriptions to DAZN cost more to the consumer than the monthly and yearly subscriptions to ESPN Plus. Yet, with that reduced fee that they're taking from the consumer, ESPN and Top Rank outbid DAZN, which charges far more for their subscription plan. So if you needed any more evidence that Top Rank ESPN Plus is providing the best value for dollar proposition, at least here in the United States, look no further than this past weekend, because had that fight landed on DAZN, we would have had to pay a lot more to watch it. And I guarantee you that we also wouldn't have seen another title fight as the co-feature, featuring none other than, of course, El Venado himself, Lopez, who took on Abe in the co-feature for the IBF featherweight title. So let's get into it. I want to talk a little bit about that card that happened Saturday. I was actually there live. I drove up from the Bronx to upstate, far upstate. I'd actually say up central New York. It's about 4.5 hours from the Bronx by drive, but it was definitely worth it. You guys let me know in the chat what you thought about the card. Let me know on IG as well. I see we're live on IG. We're live on Twitter. Now X. We're live on YouTube. Let me know on these platforms what you thought of the card this past weekend. I thought it was a great card from top to bottom, especially the last two fights of the card. But the first fight that I'll mention here, we saw Nico Ali Walsh. If you didn't know, well, you should know. He's the grandson, as they like to remind us on ESPN, of Muhammad Ali. He defeated Luke Lanucci by unanimous decision. Let me know what you guys think of Nico and his prospects. We also saw Rohan Polanco defeat Tariq Zaina, who, very interesting story, is a Moroccan fighter based out of Tijuana, Mexico. You don't come across that very often, but there you have it. He put up a pretty game performance, losing 79-71 and 78-72 on the scorecards. Two judges had it 79-71 in favor of Rohan Polanco, who I also saw last summer in Vegas at the Palms on the undercard of Superbad Estrada's fight there at the Palms this past summer. He, of course, defeated a guy that I'm very familiar with in Cesar Rainman Francis. Tariq Zaina did go the distance. Rohan Polanco does look spectacular, and he obviously is the former Dominican Olympian, now turned professional at 140 pounds. We, of course, also saw Brandon Moore defeat Halaman Olguin, also by unanimous decision. Floyd Cashflow Diaz against Edwin Rodriguez, bantamweights, 79-73, 80-72, and 78-74, unanimous decision. Funny story about Cashflow. I have been trying my damn hardest to get one of my fighters, a bantamweight, out of Uzbekistan, former member of the Uzbekistan national team that I've started to work with. You guys can look him up. Islambek Pirmanov. I've been trying to get him a fight. He's a bantamweight. I'd love for him to be in there against Cashflow Diaz. I think that would be a great fight. Islambek is a tough as nails guy. He's 6-0, 6 KOs. I'm going to keep talking about my man Islambek, and I hope to get him a fight here in the United States soon. And me and my man Ludo, who I've started to coach pro fighters with, we want to bring him out here for full camp and get him a shot at a guy like Cashflow. So I'm hoping we get to do something along those lines very soon. In a very exciting fight, Bryce Mills out of Syracuse, or the Syracuse area, defeated a Congolese fighter who now fights out of Buffalo, New York. His name is Gefred Ngayat, the Congolese fighter that is. He was defeated by Bryce Mills, 58-56, 60-54, 60-54, unanimous decision. That was a very exciting fight, guys. Bryce Mills actually sold a lot of tickets to the event. I believe he sold about 300 tickets to the fight at the Turning Stone. He had a lot of people out there cheering for him, and he's an aggressive fighter. Remains to be seen how well he does moving forward, but it was an exciting fight. A little bit of controversy. Some people believe it was controversial, the unanimous decision. Let me know, guys, what you think about that. One thing I'd also like to bring up after I talk about the next fight, which was Troy Isley, the middleweight. He knocked out Marcos Hernandez TKO in a very one-sided fight. Marcos Hernandez, of course, being the former PBC fighter. I want to get into this fight with Brian Norman Jr., who took on Janelson Figueroa Boca Chica. Look, I don't always do this, but I actually walked over to that corner after that fight, and because I was just actually very surprised, to say the least, that Boca Chica's corner didn't do more to try to ensure that their fighter made it to the fourth. It was ruled a no contest because the fight didn't enter the fourth round. Brian Norman Jr. was knocked down hard in the first round. He, of course, was the favorite. Figueroa Boca Chica was the underdog. I had Figueroa Boca Chica up 3 rounds, including a 10-8 round in the first. Had they even just started the fourth round and then the fight had stopped, they would have had to go to the scorecards. But it almost seemed like Figueroa Boca Chica's trainers wanted the fight to stop. I don't think they understood the rules being ruled a no contest because obviously the fourth round was never started. Had they started the fourth round, their fighter would have walked away with a huge upset victory over Brian Norman Jr. They didn't do that. I don't know why. They were signaling to the referee to go over and the doctor to go over. It almost looked like they were looking for the fight to get stopped. It looked like they were kind of going for a no contest, which I just didn't understand because the victory was in hand. They had knocked Norman Jr. down hard in the first round. I thought they had won the next two rounds. So again, if the fight had just started or if the fourth round had just started, they would have been awarded the victory in my eyes anyways. I spoke to them after the fight. They didn't think that they were going to get a fair shake on the scorecards. I think that's debatable, but you know, it is what it is. So they ends up being a no contest and we move forward. So last two fights, co-feature and main event, Luis Alberto Lopez totally dominated Ray Abe. He won the TKO round number 8. You know, it was a dominating performance. Looked like Abe's eye socket went in the second round. Luis Alberto Lopez, el venado, él tiene veneno en los guantes. He looked like he could do anything he literally wanted to do against Abe. He was walking him down in a high guard. He was walking him down with his hands at his waist. He was trying to counterpunch him. In the end, he went for it, got the TKO. And of course, the main event, Raymond Ford defeating Otabek Kolmatov, the Uzbek fighter, by 12th round TKO. 253 into the 12th round. Look, there's a couple things you could say about this stoppage, right? I don't have a problem with the stoppage personally, but there is another way it could have gone. And I also had Kolmatov up by 2 rounds going into the final round. Let me know how you guys had it. But you could make an argument that when somebody is punched and they go into the ropes and the ropes hold them up, that you can call that a knockdown and issue a count. The referee didn't do that. The referee essentially didn't call a knockdown and stopped the fight to prevent Raymond Ford from inflicting further damaging punishment. Do you agree or do you disagree? Would you have called it a knockdown and issued a 10 count? At which point Kolmatov would have probably walked away with that worse to draw? Or do you side with what the referee did and don't call it a knockdown, don't argue that the ropes held him up, and interject so that you prevent Ford from inflicting further punishment? Judgment call. I can't say that the referee was wrong in what he did, but there is that other perspective. Guys in the chat, let me know, and gals in the chat, let me know what you think. Salute to M-Easy Boxeo, salute to Pugilism, salute to Puro Sur, salute to Lil Penny, salute to everyone watching on X and on IG, and of course, here on YouTube. Salute to Philly Drew Irish as well. So, what we got to do here is get into the next little bit of our discussion. And I'm going to open up the lines. I'm going to let people chime in. I'm going to let them decide what they want to say, of course, and give your opinions on the next set of fights that are going to be taking place. Before I get to that, though, I do want to say that 126 pounds is obviously a very hot and interesting division. We've got El Venado Lopez. We've got Ray Ford, who's probably moving up. We've got Nick Ball fighting on the card this coming Friday against Ray Vargas for the WBC title. So things are moving and shifting in the featherweight division. I think right now that my favorite featherweight in the division is El Venado Luis Alberto Lopez. But again, Let me know what you guys think. I think that, especially if Raymond Ford moves up, that he might be not just the most exciting, but the most dominant fighter in the division right now. But let me know what you guys think. And lastly, I got to say this, and I see Lil Penny in there. Maybe he'll want to chime in on this. I see Philly Drew there. Maybe he'll want to chime in on this. In addition to a fight of the year from Top Rank so far, in addition to Riyadh season, I'm calling this episode March Madness. I need somebody to explain what's going on with Ryan Garcia. If somebody can come on and explain what's going on, I'd really appreciate it, because for the life of me, I don't really understand it. I can't tell you I understand it. I don't understand what he's talking about. And I'm struggling to really understand if he's going to be ready for this fight that's supposed to take place April the 20th here in New York City, in Brooklyn, at the Barclays Center on Saturday, April the 20th. It's a fight I've been looking forward to, but the more and more we see these press conferences and these clips people are sending me from I guess it's Instagram where he's been posting this stuff, or maybe it's X. I don't know what to make of all of this. I really don't know. So we're gonna get into that. But before that, I do gotta say this. I'm really looking forward to AJ versus Ngannou. It's Riyadh season. I'm also looking forward to Joseph Parker taking on Zhang Zhilei in a huge heavyweight contest as the co-feature to that fight. And of course, I'm also looking forward to Nick Ball challenging Ray Vargas for the WBC Featherweight Championship of the world. I want to know what you guys think. I would love to see a back-and-forth slugfest between AJ and Ngannou. I think they both have the power to hurt each other. In fact, I could even argue that Ngannou might have the power to hurt AJ more than AJ has the power to hurt Ngannou. I've actually never really seen Ngannou really all that hurt like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see if he can stand up to AJ's shots and whether his ability to throw within other people's combinations and time people is going to be effective against AJ. And then, of course, we got to see whether the Bing Bag Zhang himself, Chinese speed, Chinese power, has enough to hold off the surging Joseph Parker, who has been improving steadily under the tutelage of none other than Andy Lee. So let me know what fights you're looking forward to the most. The upcoming fights, of course. Let me know if you got Joseph Parker, if you got Zhang Zhilei, and of course, let me know who you got between Le Predateur, Francis Ngannou, and Anthony AJ Joshua. So let me know if you want to join me. I'm here. Link is in the chat. If you didn't know, well, now you know. This is Punchlines. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Let's go.
Gorilla than the planet of the apes. I write a punchline and plant it on your face. Eat a punch that you ain't even got to taste. Here's a shot that you ain't even got to chase.
So, interesting thing about this whole card that's taking place, Riyadh season, Anthony Joshua against Francis Ngannou. Look, we'll all remember that when the fight between Fury and Ngannou was announced, all of the boo birds came out. People didn't want to see it, or at least that's what they were saying, right? Now, a lot of those people are singing a different tune. Of course, one of those people is a guy on TalkSport named Adam Catterall, who now seems to see the grand scheme, the logic, right? Not scheme is in a bad word, but scheme is in a plan of His Excellency, none other than Turki Al-Sheikh, the man behind Riyadh season, the man behind these big fights in Saudi. I heard him talking the other day, and I'll give him credit. He actually said something that made a lot of sense. It was an analysis that I hadn't heard before, but one that I found quite interesting. And what he said is, look, His Excellency's idea is to start with the big fights that bring in the casuals, and under and behind those fights, bring in the fights for the hardcore. And he essentially admitted that his logic before was, no, you got to do the hardcore fights first. F the casuals. Let's do the hardcore fights. But now he sees the logic behind what His Excellency is doing. No, you bring in the fights that are going to get everybody talking, that are going to shine the spotlight on Riyadh season. And then behind those fights, you bring in the Ray Vargas and you bring in the Nick Ball. You bring in the Zhang and the Parker. You bring in the Better Beeb and the Bivol. Now that the spectacles happen, the hardcore fights are coming in. But I want to hear what none other than Puro Sur has to say, and my brother from down under, Lil Penny. Good to see you guys. How's it going?
What up? What up?
Good. I'm happy to be back. I'm trying to go Saturdays, but it was difficult for me this weekend because I had to get up early. I had to go get a rental car and then to drive upstate. And then Sunday morning, I was really tired and I had to drive back to New York City. So here we are on a Wednesday. I'll try to do Wednesdays a little bit more consistently. Going to try to give my guys a day off from the gym on Wednesdays and do my lives on Wednesdays. But how are you guys doing? I'll start with you, Lil Penny. What's good?
Yeah, good, man. Hey, what's going on? Hey, Ryan Garcia, by the way, you know when he sent that photo where he was sitting in a plastic chair and there's a white background? Dude, that's from the IRS. He hasn't paid his taxes.
Wow, is that what it is?
Yeah. And then he then called like Andrew Tate about Matrix and blah, blah, blah. That's the IRS, dude. Like, you know, a lot of these young people, dude, they don't understand. Like, they just spend their money wildly. Dude, you got to pay your taxes, man.
Yeah, you got to pay your taxes. There's two things that are guaranteed in life: death and taxes, as they say.
Yeah.
Let me give a big shout out though to Remy because I missed him. Thank you so much, Remy, for the super chat. I definitely appreciate it. And I want to give a big shout out to a guy I haven't seen in a minute, my big fan, and I'm a big fan of his. I'm talking about H Money Boxing. I haven't seen H Money in a minute. Everybody's got to go check out H Money for some of the most epic long form streams you'll find on the World Wide Web. So, are you concerned at all about Ryan? Or
yes.
You are?
Yeah, because he's behaving erratically. I heard that from that New York City press conference that when the reporters tried to speak to him after the press conference, that they were smelling alcohol, like they can smell alcohol from his breath, meaning that, dude, you gotta treat this serious. You gotta get a fight coming up next month. Like,
yeah, it was a little bit alarming, wasn't it, when he's like admitting to drinking and smoking? I mean, do what you want, obviously, but you're a professional athlete. You're not really going to be putting yourselves in the best, physical.
Yeah, I also
when you're using.
Maestro, I also remember I was in Chicano's live stream, and I told him we were talking about his life when he got married in his early 20s, right? And I said to Chicano that, like, dude, at age 21, with your kind of status, right? Me and Chicano were talking that he shouldn't have got married. He should have, kind of like what De La Hoya did in his 20s. Like, go out there, man, go wild, but don't do it whilst you're in training camp. I was thinking, like, do it afterwards, like when you finish fighting, like do it then, because he's a good-looking guy. He's got heaps of money. All of the girls like him. Why would you lock yourself with one person, like at that age? Like live a little. But now he's actually doing it whilst he's in training camp. Dude, you can't do. De La Hoya never did that. When he went to training camp, he was in Big Bear.
I don't know what De La Hoya did or didn't do in his prime, personally.
And he was in Big Bear, man. Like, he was disciplined. Yeah, he did all that.
You're right about that. You read about Big Bear.
Huh?
But you never know. He might have been helicoptering things up to Big Bear. You never know.
Dude, De La Hoya was
flying
helicopter a few things up to Big Bear.
But Maestro, in his 20s, De La Hoya was a beast. Like, you remember? He was a beast. He was undefeated, I'm thinking, in his 20s.
Yeah, he was. He was undefeated. He was wiping through guys from 130 on upwards. Puro Sur, I heard you say something. Go for it, fam.
I was just saying that, yeah, when he was up there during the summer, it was snowing, you know, in Big Bear during the summer. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Hey, Puro Sur, when, you know, when Ryan was calling Andrew Tate, when your mentor is Andrew Tate, dude, you got problems.
Like they say around here, bro, puro pedo. I don't believe one bit of it. I mean, it's funny that he's been that the people that he's been talking to are all like known grifters, like the HBD podcast, Andrew Tate. I mean, I don't buy it.
Yeah. You mean PBD podcast?
PBD, whatever it's called. I forget what it's called.
Patrick Bet David, the guy that hates public schools and public
he's not bad. He's not bad. That guy is very successful.
The guy hates unions and he hates teachers. I don't have a lot of time.
I mean,
I never heard him say that. I never heard him say that.
I did a whole video on it, actually. You guys could go check
Maestro, I never heard Patrick
Bet David was complaining about the fact that UPS workers were making over $50,000 a year. How much does he think UPS workers should make, for God's sakes?
That's
delivering all of these
packages? That's not a bad salary.
Huh?
That's not a bad salary.
$50,000. $50,000 a year in New York City. It's not easy, bro.
Oh, well, not in New York, yeah.
Well,
well, your wife has to work too, so then you can afford it.
Listen to you. I had you pegged for a social conservative, but you're here talking about Ryan Garcia spreading his wild oats all over the place. Now you're saying that the place of a woman is in the workplace. You know, financing her husband. I had you all wrong, Lil Penny.
Maestro, I reckon this is Ryan Garcia's last fight as a pro. I think he's cashing himself out. After this, I think he'll just do exhibitions, to be honest.
Okay. Well, we got
as a pro too.
Ignacio Ortiz over here. Nacho, talk to me. What do you want to talk about? Nach.
He's on mute.
Nacho's on mute. Or maybe Nacho's eating nachos. I don't know.
Hello.
We'll find out. Yeah, Nacho.
Hello.
Yes.
Yo, hello.
Nacho can't hear us. I don't know what's going on. So you're picking Zhang over Parker. Is that correct? Lil Penny?
I mean, yeah. I like Big Bang. I just think that Wilder didn't treat Parker seriously in that fight in Saudi. I think Zhang is in he's in a pretty good streak at the moment. I like his left hand. His left hand is so powerful, so straight.
Chinese power. That's what he said. I mean, there's a lot of that going on. Look, he's got the most powerful president in the world behind him, President Xi Jinping of China. Great leader, great man. And he's got Sean George training him, right? It's the battle of the trainers, Sean George versus Andy Lee, right? And it's the battle of the left hand versus the battle of the right hand, right? I actually think that Zhang's straight left and also his right hook, not to mention he can throw a mean uppercut too. I think he's a really, really composed and technical guy, very solid. The issue I've always had with Zhang is his cardio and his ability to go into the deep rounds and sustain that. The Juggernaut wasn't really able to test that. Do you think, Philly Drew, as I welcome you to the panel, that Parker will be able to extend Zhang into the later rounds?
I don't know. I'm going to say no, because if you look at it, Wilder was never really a good boxer. He was only that one-trick pony, and I don't care what anybody says. He was getting better and everything. He really wasn't getting better. He would have success in hurting you and everything. And Joseph Parker was able to move the whole time and able to get angles on him and everything. He's not going to do that with someone like Zhang. Zhang is more technically prowess, way more technically prowess than Deontay Wilder. He has one of the sharpest straight left hands that you'll see in the heavyweight division. by far, but I really think that Joseph Parker gets knocked out in around 8 or 9 in this fight.
I agree.
Everything. Like, but when it comes to the Juggernaut is a guy, his defense is his offense. He thinks he could go forward and take as many shots to get his and everything. And it finally caught on to him with a powerful, like with a guy like Zhang that was able to catch him all night with the same 2 punches. And it eventually was hurting him. So, I think it's around 8 or 9 stoppage. Zhang is going to become the mandatory to the winner of Usyk versus Fury. And
you mean Fury?
I think it's Fury too.
Hold up. You mean he's going to become the mandatory to Tyson Fury?
But I think it's Usyk or Fury, but I think Fury
Tyson
wins the
Fury.
fight.
Tyson
I
Fury.
think Fury wins the fight, but I look at it like this. I think Fury will vacate the belt. I think it, but his
really,
it's a rematch thing with him and Usyk. So I think it's going to be a rematch before anything. But I think, tell you the truth, they don't need the belts after that. I think that Fury's whoever wins is gonna vacate the belt or retire.
Yeah, it's gonna be like when Lennox became undisputed. He didn't need to have all the belts. He was still the man. Everybody recognized he was universally. They used to announce him universally recognized as the undisputed heavyweight champion. It was interesting to me because I watched a little bit of the press conference when I got home tonight from work, and what I noticed was that Tyson Fury was in the front row. Looks like the eye is healed up nicely, and he looked like he's still trim and in pretty good shape. So I think this whole thing made that fight even bigger personally. But look, I know you're on record, Puro Sur, Ignacio, Philly Drew, Lil Penny. You're all picking Francis Ngannou Friday. I want you to explain your picks and tell me why it is that you're so bullish on Ngannou this Friday.
I think
go for it.
I think Ngannou's best trait when he fought Fury was the element of surprise. That's not on at the moment. That's gone now because obviously AJ knows that. And I reckon AJ probably trained for this fight. Like if it was a real fight, I think AJ will beat him up. Like he'll beat him up to the point where I don't think even Ngannou would land a punch.
Nah, I'm going to disagree right there, Little Penny. If it was like a real fight and everything, it's like anything goes, and Ngannou will win because he has more he has more ability than AJ because he's a striker. He fought in MMA. It gives the MMA guy the advantage because anything goes in a real fight. But I'm picking AJ to win this fight, but because he should win this fight. And
I'm picking AJ by TKO. I think he'll beat him up.
He ain't stopping Ngannou. I don't think he stops Ngannou. I think Ngannou does surprise him a bit and does land a shot to hurt him a little bit. But I think AJ slips a decision like Fury did and everything. But I really think the element of surprise is gone now. They didn't see what Ngannou could do. Their strategy will probably be to try to get him in the later rounds because of his stamina. Because anybody looked at it with Ngannou versus Fury, after that knockdown, his punch output dropped dramatically, and he just turned into a stood still counter puncher. When Fury was the throw punches, he would first throw a counter punch, and that's it. And he would just throw one punch at a time. So, I think it's going to be a full 10-round fight.
Oh, you think it's going the distance?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think they're going to try to, get him in the late rounds and everything because of his stamina. Because his punch output dropped dramatically. Like I said, against Fury, he just turned into a standstill counter puncher. He didn't throw that many punches after that. Fury was the more aggressive fighter in that fight after the knockdown, and that's why I gave Fury the fight. And
there you go. Let's hear from Nacho. Nacho's the mic working now. Ignacio Ortiz, go for it.
Hello?
Yep, you loud and clear.
Hello?
So,
hello. Oh, okay.
Loud
good.
and clear.
Yeah, I'm calling Cap on Ngannou, Maestro. There's no way in hell he wins that fight. I think Joshua is eventually gonna beat him up and stop that dude. He literally fought a Tyson Fury that had no interest in training for that fight, and now he thinks that he's a legitimate heavyweight boxer. I'm sorry, he should have been fighting after that fight in order to prove that he was serious about being a heavyweight boxer. The fact that he's been sitting on his butt since then just convinces me more that I think Joshua's going to go in there and take care of business and try to upstage Fury for his tepid performance against the guy.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's be honest here. I was obviously joking earlier. I think any serious boxing person would have to highly favor Anthony Joshua in this fight. Joshua should be able to beat Ngannou just by boxing and moving if he wants to.
Maestro,
you know what I mean? Go ahead. Yeah.
Do you think Joshua took this fight to get closer to the winner, to fight in the middle of Fury versus Usyk eventually?
That's a really good question, because I remember there was, I believe it was a press conference, you guys can correct me, where Joshua said that he's fighting for the money at this point. So, I mean, to me, the obvious answer is that this is prize fighting. He's a prize fighter. He's been on the record saying that he's only fighting for the money at this point. So I think he's taking this fight for the money. I think the whole idea that Eddie Hearn has inserted into the mix more recently, that he's taking this fight because the winner's been promised a shot at the Usyk and Fury winner, I don't really know if that, you know, passes the test of logic and reason. And I'll tell you why. There's a rematch to that fight. So, I mean, how is it that he's taking this Ngannou fight to guarantee himself a shot at the winner of a fight who's contractually obligated to give the loser of that fight a rematch? Like, that just never really made much sense to me personally. So I don't know what you think, Philly, but that's kind of where I am at. And I don't knock him for it.
Yeah,
if I was him and somebody offered me $50 million to take on Ngannou, I would do that as well.
Here's the thing. I don't knock him because here's the thing. Fury did the same thing. I didn't like the fight. I thought he should have fought a pro boxer. And like, you can say the same thing for Joshua and everything, but to me, he's trying to one up Fury to get himself a big fight with the winner of this fight. But I look at it like this: we are not 100% certain that the loser of Fury versus Usyk is going to want to fight again after this, or the winner of this fight wants to fight again. They may both retire after this fight. We don't know yet, but but if you look at it like this, the dominoes are being placed right now. We got to say that they're being placed because these guys are up there, and they're heading, and these guys could retire at any time and everything. You can even say Zhang is, because Zhang's 40 years old and everything. But I think Zhang wants to be world champion before he calls it a career. He has a great opportunity to be champion and everything. I think if after these two, after Fury and Usyk, he's the third best heavyweight in the division. So I look at it as a potentially.
Yeah, you rank him higher than you rank AJ right now, Zhang.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100% on that. Go for it.
Absolutely rank him higher than AJ. I think Zhang's upside right now, and you see how he was doing. Did anybody thought before he fought George Joyce that AJ would beat George Joyce? Probably not. The way he was easily able to handle George Joyce, Zhang, in both fights, it put the whole division on notice. And this fight right here is probably going to put the division more on notice, the way he fights Joseph Parker. That he could be Wilder now, he could be AJ now. He'll be a very tough matchup. Everybody thought he'd beat Hergative. A majority thought he'd beat Philip Hergative. They thought he was robbed in that fight. And I thought he was robbed in that fight. But he beats Dillian Wright easily. He beats Terence Chisora easily. Who doesn't beat him? He beats Deontay Wilder, I believe, easily. He'll give Usyk and Fury problems. So we look at it like that. Who can we say is the third best heavyweight in this division by unanimously?
Chinese speed, Chinese power.
Yep.
Big
Chinese, China power.
He bangs everybody. He bangs everything. That's what he does.
That's got to be a big pause right there. Someone should tell him that.
I mean, he said it. I didn't say it.
Yeah, I know, but we gotta look at it like that. He's unanimously the third best heavyweight in this division, and I think there's a big gap between him and AJ. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, he knocked out Olajuwon and everything. I'll be honest. From what I saw, I think Zhang could have knocked him out in lesser rounds than AJ.
Let me ask you this. How would Francis Ngannou have done against Olajuwon?
I look at it like this. I think Olajuwon would have beat Ngannou because Wallin would have outboxed him for 12 rounds. Here's the thing. When you got a guy like AJ that was looking to prove a point and everything, and he has skill and everything, and he opposed his will on him, Ngannou's not that type of fighter. So it is what it is.
There you go. Let me ask you guys this, and I'm gonna start with Nando on this one. Sorry, not Nando. My man Nando's in the chat. Salute to you, Nando. Always good to see you. I'm gonna start with Nacho on this one. Nacho, talk to me about the stoppage on Saturday night. Ford getting the last-minute walk-off home run against Kolmatov. I preface the question with this kind of dichotomy
about the stoppage.
Yes, because one could argue that getting knocked down or knocked into the ropes should count as a knockdown, and then the referee at that point could have issued a count. This referee decided not to count it a knockdown, and then to protect the fighter from getting hit. How would you have handled that? Go for it.
Oh, okay. I could see that point of view, Maestro, that he got hit into the ropes and the ropes held him up, so you could technically have given him the 8 count because the ropes held him up, so it could have been called a knockdown. I just think, having watched the fight, especially that last round a few times, the way that everything transpired so fast, as far as Kolmatov basically sprinting around the ring, trying to avoid getting hit by Ford, and then Ford trapping him in the corner and hitting him with a couple of those straight lefts to the head while his back was turned and he got hurt. I personally don't have an issue with the stoppage because after, I don't know if a lot of people paid attention, after the fight was over and Kolmatov tried to walk back to his corner, he literally was out on his feet, wobbling and just struggling to get to his corner. So to me, there was no way that dude could have continued. To me, this reminds me a lot of the fight from last year with O'Shaquie Foster and Eduardo Hernandez, where he basically ended up doing the same thing, Foster to Hernandez, and some people kind of felt like, Hernandez was just trying to run out the clock in order to win that fight after he got hurt. So, I mean, you could kind of see it from both sides, but me personally, I don't have a problem with the stoppage. I thought it was a legit stoppage, especially based on the fact that Kolmatov, after the fight was over, he looked like he couldn't even walk to his own corner after the fight.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And it's a judgment call, and it's a judgment call that's made in real time. And I can't knock what the referee did. I can't say that if I was in his position, I would have done anything else. I just saw rumblings about people complaining about the stoppage. I was there live, and I can tell you guys right now, Kolmatov was in a bad state at that point. I actually spoke to a member of his team, too, the following morning at the hotel before I checked out to return to New York City, and they told me that he had a really bad knee issue going into this fight and that they'd essentially taken a gamble. They believed that they had enough, even with the bad knee, to take on Ford and beat Ford and then get the surgery after winning the title. And they felt that if they had the surgery before the fight or hadn't taken the fight, that they wouldn't have necessarily received another title shot anytime soon. So I think that was part of the calculus, but nothing to take away from Ford. He fought his heart out. He fought really well. He believed in himself, and he was in it until the very end and had a come from behind victory by knockout. Does anybody here have anything else to say about the Ford fight?
I had him winning at the time of the stoppage. I had him winning slightly because I thought it was a really close fight, but I had Ford winning. But I had no problem with the stoppage. You turn around, the referee's gonna think you don't want no more, no mass, or But if the ropes are keeping you up, it's a knockdown.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: you never turn around. You never turn your back to your opponent because it's a sign that you don't want no more.
Or to the referee, like AJ did in the first Ruiz fight. I mean, he basically gave the referee no choice but to stop the fight at that point.
This recently happened with Gabriela Fundora and Christina Cruz. She turned her back and everything. And we were and I was looking, there a lot of people looking, why the hell is she turning her back to the fighter and the referee for? And like she was winning the fight. And my card, I had her winning the fight. That got Fundora needed a knockout to win.
I don't think I had the fight that way personally, but it depends how you score fights. I mean, my issue with Cruz in that fight, if I'm going to go back to it very quickly here, Philly, is that I felt that a lot of those punches were slaps. She wasn't really turning over the shots. And, I wasn't counting a lot of those contacts personally. I felt she was slapping Fundora and almost playing tag, But
Maestro, you know that rule where if a fighter hits a guy and he uses the ropes so that he can't fall, right? So usually that's a countdown, right? It's a mandatory 8, right? But a lot of I've seen that throughout. I haven't seen that that being called for a long time. Even like I remember. Because I'm a Pacquiao fan. Obviously, I've seen a lot of Pacquiao fights. I remember when Pacquiao Morales 3, when I think it was in round 3, Morales held the rope, so that he couldn't get knocked down. Ref didn't call that. Also, remember Pacquiao Marquez rematch when Pacquiao knocked him down. I think it was in the 4th or 5th round, and then at the end of that fight, Pacquiao really hit him with a left hand, and Marquez held the ropes. So that he couldn't fall. The ref didn't call that either. I think it's hard to call, man, because it's a split second, and sometimes the ref is in a different angle, like he can't see that a fighter is holding the rope. It's hard to see. That's why we haven't seen that type of call for
They haven't been doing that in a long time, calling knockdowns, like calling that grabbing the ropes like that a knockdown. They haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah.
And
I haven't seen it called for a while.
They're gonna look at it. Oh, he was off balance. He grabbed the rope. They're not gonna put it. They're not gonna call that. These referees now are not really gonna call that. The only way that they're gonna say that the ropes will keep him up if he was up against the ropes and he was falling down and the ropes were keeping him up. Like if he was like in a sitting motion, they're gonna call that a knockdown and everything.
Yeah. It's tough. You got to make the judgment call of was the guy actually going down and were the ropes actually keeping him up? And look, I'm not complaining about the stoppage. I actually felt that it was a fair stoppage. Kolmatov was clearly hurt. It's just interesting to me that I agree, Lil Penny. You don't see a lot of referees calling that anymore. Knockdowns based on the fact that the ropes held up the fighter. And I think that's a pretty interesting phenomenon, so to speak. I'm going to bring in my man Virtuoso. Any thoughts of what we've been talking about?
About Ray Ford versus Kolmatov?
Yeah, or about the AJ Fury fight, AJ Ngannou fight, or anything else?
I first want to touch upon that epic fight we had last weekend. From Verona, New York. I wish I was there. I wish I was there. Just feeling the atmosphere I picked Ford like initially, but like many people were telling me that Kolmatov was going to beat him. And when I watched that fight, I thought, wow, Kolmatov is really just letting his hands go, but Ford is kind of warding off his punches, and he's missing a lot. And that led to his eventual fatigue that I think Ford was taking advantage of. And I think after after 6 rounds, I had it split. And then from then on, I think there were alternated rounds where I think the judges were trying to giving Kolmatov the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, Ford had to pull out the victory. He had to pull out all stops. Once he had him hurt, he couldn't let him go. And for the ref to do that and call the fight off with 7 seconds left, I think that was pretty ballsy from them. And it's like, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen. And Ford really did put a hurting on him, and he got him hurt. There was one point, like I think in the 12th round, before he got thrown down, where his bash went to the ropes. That should have been a standing in count. Right then and there, that could have swung the momentum for Ford to win on the cards. I think, yeah, two judges had him up by had Kolmatov up by 2, but I think with that knockdown and that eventual stoppage, I think it was doable. I think it was possible for Ford to really get the win. I couldn't say nothing but respect for Kolmatov. You know, good fighter. I think he'll be a champion someday. But man, Ford really amazed me in there. I thought he was very resilient, and I could not be more happier than he was. But it's bittersweet because I think he is going to move up eventually.
I agree, and we're going to go to Puro Sur. And Puro Sur, chime in on anything you'd like, but I would like you to talk to me about this. I felt it was very interesting. And look, I think it goes without saying that Ford versus Kolmatov was the best fight of the night, clearly. But neither of those guys are top-ranked fighters. Lopez is a top-ranked fighter, a top-ranked fighter. He was fighting in the co-feature. I thought that was interesting. I'm also quite perplexed as to why Lopez isn't a bigger star than he is. He's Mexican. Mexican Americans are arguably the most ardent fight fans in North America, along with Mexicans. He's a world champion. He's an exciting fighter. He fought on the road. Puroso, talk to me about Bernardo Lopez, and talk to me about anything else that we've been talking about tonight. Go for it.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in on the knockdowns, but I'll answer the first thing about Bernardo. Bernardo is what I like to call one of the fighters that started his career obviously as a virtual unknown. They picked him up. I don't know if it's Zanfer or whoever had him before, but they picked him up pretty much to because maybe he lost early in his career. I think he lost very early, maybe his first, second fight. They brought him in to make the top rank prospects look good. So against Ruben Villa, he fought a really good fight, but he still lost. That was actually an excellent fight. I hope that they rematch one day, because I want to see that rematch to see if he can, win the fight or we just see another great fight. And then they also brought him in to feed him to Gabe Flores, but he upset the apple card. But that's the thing, so the fighters that they usually bring in as showcases for upcoming prospects and stuff like that, they're going to promote them like that, And even especially if it's like a maybe like a highly touted prospect, I get the feeling that sometimes like they'll kind of like not call him back because they upset the apple card. So that's why I think he's not as big of a star as he should be, because with the style that he has, it's very entertaining. It's almost Roy Jones-esque how he how he has his style. He's also 30 years old. He started boxing. I think the first time he ever boxed was at 20. I think he started boxing at 20. He was like a soccer player before that. Yeah. So that's why I think
I find him very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, sir.
You're mute, Maestro.
Look, we can't hear you, Maestro. Your mic went out. I think your mic went out. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say about the knockdowns though. All knockdowns are based on the discretion of the referee. He has to go by the guidelines. So like the one key that a referee has is that if a fighter hits the ground, but even then, like they have to
now. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead.
All right,
Mike.
awesome. I don't know what happened there. Philly, go for it. You wanted to say something.
To add on to his point about Lopez, I think the main reason is because his biggest wins came overseas in the UK. And I really think that if he would, once he beats a popular American fighter or Mexican fighter that's well known in North America, he would get that recognition. But his best wins were like upsets wins over like Mike Collin and everything. His best wins were over in the UK, in my opinion. But that's what my main opinion why he's not a bigger star over in North America.
Yeah, I just want to counter that. You know, I think for him to be a star, he's gonna have to need like unification fights. Look, if they don't figure out what they're gonna do with Rafael Espinosa, maybe do a rematch with Robesi, then they should make that unification. You know, since they're both Mexicans and America has a sizable Mexican American population. You know, that can happen. Now, if he says he wants to go up in weight and maybe fight Cordina, that could also be doable. You know, he's a guy that's willing to fight overseas. I could see him fighting Joe Cordina
at 130.
Yes.
Yeah, Cordina is a tough out, man.
Yeah.
You got Navarrete there too, right?
Yeah, Navarrete is at 132.
130.
And Valdez.
I'm here, guys, but
Navarrete's
I'm
fighting
having
for the
technical
vacant belt at 35
difficulties with
against Baranchik
my
next.
audio and my stream. So
Can
I
you
think
hear
I'm
me?
going to have to
Yeah.
end it here,
Oh, man.
unfortunately, because I can't hear you. Something's going on with my StreamYard.
Okay.
But
I got AJ
it
winning.
looks like you guys can hear me. So I thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Lil Penny, Virtuoso. Obviously, my man Nacho and Puro Sur and Philly. Hopefully, we'll be back and doing it again soon. Technical difficulties, guys, but we'll be back for another one. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you again soon on the next one. Thank you.